Welcome back to the channel. It is a hot topic lately on diesel emission deletes, especially for your light duty diesel pickup trucks. That's your Cummins, your Duramax, and your Power Strokes. Now, there's been a lot of chatter with Lee Zeldin heading the EPA, one of Trump's appointees, President Trump, appointees, and his gutting of the EPA. Then you had the Chevron deference that changed. And there seems to be a lot of confusion on emissions deletes. So back in 2013 was really the first enforcement. It started as a civil enforcement, which basically meant you paid a fine, did some restitution, and you moved on with life. Kind of essentially a slap on the wrist. People continued to do it, and it grew in popularity quite a bit. I remember that time frame. Back then I could get a 5-inch turbovac exhaust shipped to California for a truck if I wanted to. Then it got a little tighter. I would say I first started noticing it, like I always used XDP to buy a lot of parts. All of a sudden I couldn't buy an EGR or block-off plate on XDP. And then you kind of noticed the tuning started to disappear. And then became the criminal enforcement. That is when they started to file personal criminal charges against the offender, whether that be the tuner, the hard parts manufacturer, the company, whatever. And I have a lot of insight into this due to a friend of mine that went through this. Ended up with felony charges, and I can tell you from the outside looking in, based on what he told me and how I saw his life kind of change, and some of the things he didn't even have to tell me that I just was able to pick up on. Like, this changed his life for quite some time. You can't own a gun, you can't vote, good luck trying to get another job, and if you need to rent, stuff like that, like a felony stays with you for a very long time. And now you have all of this chatter within the EPA, with Lee Zeldin heading it, and I just want to clarify that the way they enforce these laws and stuff can be changed. It doesn't change the law or the act that they were using, which is the Clean Air Act. And although there have been some changes, I feel like the only way truly moving forward to make it legal would be to get rid of that act or amend it. And trying to get anybody in the government to admit that they made a mistake, good luck. Those people don't make mistakes, they make excuses, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of large government entities anyway. For anybody that has watched my channel, or this is the first video that's ever popped up, it shouldn't be very hard to tell you kind of how I stand politically, but I try to keep all of that aside just because I make videos about trucks. I don't care who you vote for. I really don't. Like, at the end of the day, I did choose to serve my country, and I'm proud of that. And part of that was there's going to be people that want to vote one way and want to vote the other way, and I have to be okay with that. That's one of the things that's really cool about this country. You can have different opinions, and everyone's voice is heard. So anyway, sorry to go off onto that. I just want to be clear in this video. They're not legal. They weren't legal yesterday. They weren't legal a week ago. They weren't legal 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They haven't ever been legal. They just chose not to enforce it until 2013. And then they stepped it up to the criminal enforcement later. And both the civil enforcement began under President Obama, and the criminal enforcement began under President Trump's first term. So it doesn't really seem to matter who's in office as far as the EPA moving forward. Now, I understand that they are gutting it, stuff like that. The problem with this is, even if they got rid of the EPA, the government's really good at repurposing things. So Department of Transportation, for instance, has some overlap with the EPA. Not a ton, but it does. I did sit down and research this quite a bit before I made this video, because I wanted to give people more factual information than just opinions. I could see them repurposing the Department of Transportation and start to absolve some of that EPA. Now, it won't happen under this administration, but let's say the political pendulum swings back the other way. I could see them doing that in a hurry, and then all of a sudden, they're going to figure out a way to pass legislation to begin enforcing it again. And that is the problem with executive order ruling, right? It's just like when Trump took office this time, he did all those executive orders to get rid of everything Biden did. Well, the pendulum swings back the other way, first day of the presidency, what are they going to do? Undo everything that was done. So I agree that the changing or hopefully abolishing of the EPA can happen. Cool. Whatever. Less money spent, I'm good with it. But the problem is they can easily turn that back on. So I guess what I would word it as is there won't be any enforcement for 4 years, but it's still illegal. And the best way I can kind of describe this to people that maybe are not understanding, ATF, right? ATF bounces back and forth depending on how somebody views this or views that. Like AR pistols is always a popular one. Are they legal? Are they illegal? I don't know. It depends on who interpreted that law and who signed off on it, and it's kind of gone back and forth. Or it's like as simple as speeding, right? There's a posted speed limit. It's 45. If you choose to go 46, you're breaking the law. Now, do they choose to enforce that? Maybe not. Now you're going 50. Most cops, I feel like, would let you get away with 50. Now go 60 in a 45. You're probably going to get caught. And just because they're not enforcing it doesn't make it legal. It's just not worth their time. Because they have slowed down this delete market quite a bit, it's not worth their time. Now let's say it blows back up again to 2013, 14, 15, 16 levels where you can go on eBay, Amazon, any big diesel performance parts retailer and buy your EGR plates and all this stuff. It becomes a problem again. So we got to repeal it or amend the Clean Air Act for starters. And I think the best way to meet in the middle, if you guys truly wanted this to happen, there needs to be a time and a mileage, okay? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have a lot of people that don't want to delete their pickup trucks. A lot of fleets, maybe construction, stuff like that, where they're turning over trucks so fast it doesn't matter to them. And by and large, if they want to keep the emission system on, sure, why not? Like, that would help reduce the pollution, right? According to them, those emission systems reduce the pollution. And when we delete them, they increase the pollution. I say at 10 years, 100,000 miles, that is when a truck no longer needs to have that system. It can be removed. And I think what you'll see is you'll still have a ton of new trucks being sold. You'll have people that run them with the emissions on. That's usually what the factory warranty is on powertrains or emission systems. So if that's all the manufacturer thinks that those emission systems are going to last for, we shouldn't have to pay to maintain them. We paid the sales tax on it. We paid for the truck itself. We pay a registration fee. In some places, you pay personal property tax. Like I know in Virginia, personal property tax is a thing, so they're making money there. You're paying road tax on the fuel, which out here in California, we pay an absolute metric ton in fuel tax. So they've made the cost of ownership so expensive. Now, the only thing I will say in defense of manufacturers, if you use the diesel pickup truck the way they're intended to be used, hauling, towing, working them hard, the emission systems do tend to last a lot longer. It's people that use them as daily drivers, take the kids to school, go to the grocery store, that seem to have the problems because the emission systems, just to get up to temp, they get plugged up and you have problems. So, not saying the emission system is a good thing. I'm just saying when they're used the way they were designed to be used, they do hold up better. However, I'm a firm believer. I paid for the truck. If I want to park it in my driveway, so be it. If I want to let it run all day in my driveway, cool. If I want to drive a quarter mile down the street to get an ice cream cone, cool. I paid for it. I get to use it how I want. But with all the information out there, I just want people to know it is still illegal. Nothing has changed there. They're just choosing not to enforce it right now. But with the flick of a pen, the swing of a political pendulum, it could all come crashing back. So I hope that we're able to make this change. Me being somewhat of a realist, I don't ever see that day coming. I could be wrong, and I'll tell you what, I'll be the first person to get on this camera in front of you guys and tell you I was wrong, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. There's too much money to be made. There's too much money to be made on selling this crap, servicing this crap, taxing this crap, and too much money to be made on fining for people that decide to break the rules. And I obviously love this industry. I've devoted most of my adult life to it. Everything from just a regular enthusiast to a shop owner to now, I guess, just building transmissions out of my house, to owning this quad cab behind me, which you guys have seen grow on the channel. We started with a truck that made 300 horsepower, and now we are racing pro street, albeit very slow, but we're learning. Progress. But we have taken it from a full street truck now to essentially getting pretty close to pro street. My goal is to have this thing under 5,000 pounds here very shortly. So again, I don't want to ruin anyone's day. I don't want to take stabs at anybody that's made videos the opposite of me. That's what makes this place great. I just want the information to be out there that is illegal. Whatever you decide to do with that information is your own choice of your own free will. I wish you nothing but the best. And whether you guys like this video, dislike it, don't care, drop your comment down below. Like I said, my solution, 10 years, 100,000. After that, you can do what you want with it. You'll get rid of 50% of the trucks right away, just based on insurances, total losses. Then you're gonna have a bunch of people that just don't want to screw with it because deleting trucks is expensive. The Ram guys are really starting to wake up to what the Duramax guys have felt. Power Strokes, shoot, you can't even get delete files for HO trucks yet. It's getting expensive, and some people don't want to deal with that. And I think that gives the enthusiast an outlet to move forward, and it keeps enough of the emissions down for their science, whatever you want to call it, and everyone can go about their lives happily. And it's not that crazy to think about. An L5P in like another year will be 10 years old. 6-7 Power Stroke Alumiduties in a year will be 10 years old. So not too crazy. The only thing I'm nervous about is if you give them a little bit, will they continue to take? And the answer is probably yes. So give this one a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. Drop your comment on your solution. Again, Clean Air Act needs to be rewritten at a minimum or gutted. The problem is it does tackle more than just vehicle emissions, so you might just want to amend it. But either way, subscribe if you are not already, guys, and as always, I'll catch y'all on the next one.